The Collective Advantage: How Black Women Entrepreneurs Are Redefining Success Through Community Power. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on what I believe will be a journey that transforms how you think about entrepreneurship, success, and the very foundations of economic progress in America. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Kay Howard, a visionary leader whose work has sent ripples of transformation across the entrepreneurial landscape. Kay isn't just a thought leader, she's a revolution catalyst who has dedicated her life to dismantling outdated paradigms of success. Her groundbreaking research and advocacy have illuminated pathways that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about entrepreneurship, particularly among Black women. Her insights haven't just changed perspectives, they've changed lives, communities, and increasingly our economic systems themselves. When we talk about entrepreneurship in America, we celebrate a particular mythology: the lone visionary, the rugged individualist who overcomes all odds through sheer force of will. It's the story we've been told countless times: the solitary genius in the garage, the risk taker who bets everything, the exceptional individual who breaks through barriers that hold others back. It's a compelling narrative. It's also profoundly incomplete. And nowhere is this incompleteness more evident or more damaging than in our understanding of Black women entrepreneurs. Here's what the headlines tell us: Black women are starting businesses at historic rates. They represent the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in America. This is typically framed as a story of individual grit and determination, of exceptional women overcoming exceptional barriers. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not even the most important part of the story? What if something much more revolutionary is happening beneath the surface? Through my conversation with Kay Howard, I discovered something that fundamentally challenged my understanding of entrepreneurial success. The remarkable achievements of Black women entrepreneurs aren't primarily about individual heroism. They're about something far more transformative: the deliberate creation of ecosystems and infrastructures that uplift entire communities and future generations. This insight doesn't just add nuance to our understanding, it completely reframes it. It challenges our most basic assumptions about entrepreneurship, success, and progress itself. Let me take you to New Orleans, 2025. The Women's Business Enterprise National Council Conference is underway in a city defined by resilience. In the grand ballrooms and breakout sessions, something remarkable is happening. Black women entrepreneurs are demonstrating a different model of success, one built not on individual achievement, but on collective advancement. Despite facing persistent disparities in loan approvals, only 45% compared to 55% for men, and higher denial rates across the board, these entrepreneurs aren't just surviving, they're thriving. Average revenues among their businesses grew by an astonishing 32.7%. How? Not through isolated heroic efforts, but through strategic alliance building, mentorship networks, and collective advocacy for equitable market access. After years of underrepresentation, these entrepreneurs built momentum through grassroots organizing and participation in national forums. They didn't just outpace market growth, they influenced conference agendas, shifting focus from individual recognition towards systemic change. I remember Kay's voice rising with emotion as she described one entrepreneur who had been denied bank loans 7 times. Instead of giving up, she connected with 4 other women facing similar barriers. Together, they formed a lending circle, pooling resources to fund each other's growth while advocating for policy changes. Within 18 months, three of them had secured traditional financing, and all five had increased their revenues by at least 25%. This is the first key insight from my conversation with Kay Howard. Black women entrepreneurs aren't just breaking barriers for themselves, they're creating entirely new pathways and support systems for others, amplifying collective advancement rather than just personal success. But let's be clear about the challenges that remain. According to Brookings Institution research that Kay shared, Black sole proprietors nationwide face persistent financing obstacles. The approval rate on loan applications hovers around just 6.5%, lower than peak levels. Many potential entrepreneurs feel discouraged from even applying due to wealth gaps, strict lender requirements, and histories of prior denials. The debt aversion many feel is exacerbated by low credit scores, which themselves trace back to historical disparities in home ownership and wealth accumulation. It's a complex web of interconnected barriers. Yet, even here, we see the power of collective approaches. In cities across America, Black entrepreneurs have turned toward alternative lenders or pooled resources within trusted networks rather than relying solely on traditional banks. Advocacy groups have pushed lenders toward fairer practices. The result? Modest increases in loan approvals, still below optimal levels, but moving in the right direction. Policy reforms around credit evaluation criteria are beginning to take shape. Kay shared the story of a community in Atlanta where 15 Black women business owners, repeatedly denied traditional financing, formed their own micro lending network. They established transparent criteria, provided peer mentorship, and created accountability structures. Within 2 years, they had funded 12 business expansions, created 37 new jobs, and established enough credibility that two regional banks created special programs based on their model. This brings me to the second key insight. Despite significant gains in business ownership and revenue, access to funding remains a major barrier. Black business owners still face higher denial rates for loans and often feel discouraged from even applying due to systemic obstacles. The implications extend far beyond individual businesses. The National Bureau of Economic Research tracks gender and race gaps throughout the startup formation pipeline, from founding through venture capital backing and ultimate exits. The data Kay shared is sobering. Blacks start new firms at a rate nearly one quarter lower than whites. Less than 10% of all entrepreneurs are Black. Only about 2 to 4% of venture capital backed startups are run by Blacks or Hispanics. And representation among decision makers at investment firms hovers around just 4%. Some targeted incubators and programs focused on underrepresented founders have emerged since 2020, alongside increased efforts from some venture capitalists and funds dedicated exclusively to minority led ventures. The results are promising but limited. Exit rates among female founded VC backed startups have exceeded their share, a sign that when given equal opportunity and support, outcomes can match or exceed those of their peers. However, the overall gap narrows slowly without sustained intervention. Decades long exclusion from mainstream venture circles has led many aspiring founders either into bootstrapping or specialized accelerators designed specifically around their needs and barriers. Kay told me about a Black woman founder who, after being told her business was too niche, by 17 venture capitalists, created her own investment collective with 8 other women entrepreneurs. They pooled resources, shared networks, and created a support structure that helped all 9 businesses scale. 3 years later, 2 of these businesses were acquired for 8 figure sums by the same venture funds that had initially rejected them. These proof of concept successes show what's possible when gatekeeping decreases, but they also underscore the need for continued intentionality and systemic reform industry wide. And this leads to the third key insight from my conversation with Kay Howard. The economic impact of closing these opportunity gaps would be transformative, not only for individuals, but for entire local economies. We're talking about potential gains of millions of jobs and billions in additional revenue if Black owned businesses reach parity with their population share. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just about fairness or equity, though those are certainly important. It's about unlocking massive economic potential that benefits everyone. Now, I want to challenge a fundamental assumption that shapes how we think about entrepreneurship and success. We often assume that the path to achievement is primarily individual, that success comes to those who work hardest, take the biggest risks, and demonstrate the most talent. But what if the most powerful form of entrepreneurship isn't individual at all? What if the most transformative approach is collective? This is the counterintuitive idea at the heart of what Kay Howard shared with me. The most successful Black women entrepreneurs aren't succeeding despite systemic barriers. They're succeeding because they've developed collective approaches to transforming those barriers into advantages. Instead of trying to overcome obstacles alone, they're building networks, creating infrastructure, and establishing ecosystems that benefit not just themselves, but entire communities. They're redefining what entrepreneurial success looks like. This approach turns conventional wisdom on its head. Rather than seeing entrepreneurship as a solitary journey, these women recognize it as a collective endeavor. Rather than measuring success solely by individual profit, they measure it by community impact. Rather than accepting the existing system as given, they're actively reshaping it. The implications are profound. If we want to foster more entrepreneurial success, not just among Black women, but across all demographics, we need to shift our focus from individual achievement to ecosystem building. We need to recognize that the most powerful form of entrepreneurship might be the kind that lifts others as it rises. This isn't just a nice idea, it's backed by hard data. Remember that 32.7% growth in average revenues among Black women owned businesses. That didn't happen because these women suddenly became more talented or worked harder. It happened because they built systems of mutual support, advocacy, and collaboration. The traditional narrative of entrepreneurship celebrates the exceptional individual who breaks through barriers through sheer force of will. It's a compelling story, but it's also a story that can inadvertently reinforce those barriers by suggesting that the only way through them is exceptional individual effort. What if instead we celebrated the exceptional communities that dismantle barriers through collective action? What if we recognize that the most revolutionary act isn't breaking through a wall alone, but building a door that many can walk through? So I challenge you today. How will you shift your understanding of entrepreneurial success? Will you continue to celebrate Only the exceptional individuals who overcome barriers? Or will you join the revolution that's dismantling those barriers altogether? Because make no mistake, this is a revolution. It's a fundamental reimagining of what entrepreneurship can and should be. It's a vision where success isn't measured by how high an individual climbs, but by how many people they bring with them. The question isn't whether this revolution will continue. The question is whether you will be part of it. Will you invest in women led funds that prioritize diverse entrepreneurs? Will you mentor someone facing barriers you've never had to face? Will you advocate for policies that create more equitable access to capital? Will you recognize and support businesses that measure success not just by profit, but by community impact? The future of entrepreneurship isn't about lone geniuses or exceptional individuals. It's about exceptional communities creating exceptional opportunities for all. The sooner we embrace this truth, the sooner we'll unlock the full potential of our economy and our society. Thank you